And so I'm just like, forget school, forget like whatever's tomorrow. I'm going to make it a commitment to go. So he said that, and like all this happened within half a second. I'm like, yes.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Yield Today with Dallin, Candland. I am back, and I'm here with the one and only Willie Blake. I feel like I've been saying one and only, but it's a thing. Like, we are the one and only version of ourselves, you know? So it's a thing. Yeah, so I have Willie here. I actually met him on my mission trip as well, just like with Jake Good. So if you missed that episode with him, definitely check it out. Had a lot of fun with that. But Willie, man, there's a lot of things we could talk about, and I'm just glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me. Like, and every time we talk, again, you're a battery charger. You're someone who helps me out the day whenever we get off talking with each other. Just feels better. So, man, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, I think, Willie, before we jump really fast into the episode, I just want to share a kind of a personal story. So Willie and I, we were missionaries in the same mission, Idaho-Nampa mission. And, you know, I had been out on my mission for right around 4 or 5 months. And we went on this trip on a preparation day. So preparation day was like, well, it's kind of different now. But basically, you have this time to kind of rewind, you know, see the sights. And then around like 6 or 7, you go back to doing missionary work stuff for the day. But I remember one time we were at Swan Falls in Kuna, and there was all this kind of stuff going on. We were seeing different rivers and thinking about fishing. Fishing didn't really happen. We were just walking around on rocks. And then I think Willie and I were talking about Pokemon a tiny bit. And then we were talking about different business stuff and things we wanted to do after. And we just said we'd keep in touch. And look, we did it. We've kept in touch. And I remember sharing a couple things about how I was feeling with Willie, and how I just remember him just really listening to me. And that's like one of the most valuable things that you can do for somebody who wants to improve or is having a rough time, is just to listen to them. That's something Jake did for me really well. So, yeah, so I have a lot of respect for Willie for doing that. And he's been doing some great stuff. So excited to dive in with him to these topics. So Willie, let's just go to I don't know. I'm more interested in hearing like I guess your journey from, you know, getting off your mission to going to college, meeting Evan Carmichael. Like, you've done some great things, and not only have these things happen, but you've chosen to let them help you grow and help you to, you know, define yourself. You know, they're not just something that goes down your back. You just kind of try to soak it in and sponge it up. And I appreciate you calling me a battery charger, not a drainer. That's something I try to do for sure. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, though?
Like I feel like Harry Potter when you said that. Like, sure, it all sounds great when you put it in perspective like that, but in all honesty, it's just taking on the opportunity when it comes by. And I say Harry Potter because, like, in the 5th movie, he says, "Oh, he dealt with Voldemort in the in the third door thingy, and then Chamber of Secrets, and then fought a basilisk," and all these different things. Like, they all sound great when you put them all together, but the thing is, and I'm not going to undermine it, they are absolutely awesome. It's one step at a time, but you also got to think of it as one step at a time. Like, I'm 23, I got my whole life ahead of me. I can do anything I want to as long as I put the work into it, and I'm going to continue to basically do that. So kind of how I went from after the mission to kind of where I'm at right now. After the mission, I was like on cloud 9, absolutely loving it. And that lasted about a month and a half. After a month and a half, I realized that I didn't have the set schedule. I didn't feel like I had much purpose at all. I was starting block classes for college, and I got back into my old high school habits, old high school addictions, and it's absolutely horrible. Like, for the next couple months, absolutely horrible. My girlfriend at the time was on a mission. Okay, my ex-girlfriend at the time. My girlfriend at the time, who is now my ex. There we go. That sounds better. She was on a mission, and I just got in this like depressed state. Again, I got into addictions like pornography and masturbation. I got into kind of being bullied online again. It was just like a dark place for me. And it took until she came home, told Dear John me. I don't even know if it's a Dear John afterwards, after the mission, but she broke up with me. I met my wife. We started dating, and then things just started getting better. Like, that's why I married her. She's an absolute wonderful influence, amazing individual, and we just kept moving on. We got married that July. It was absolutely amazing. And I just kept going and going and going. And I'm not like trying to fluff this up, but it was just so good to have someone who was by your side that you could just keep going on. Now, talking about like how I went from that person who was in the addiction into being depressed and whatnot to the person I am today, who talks about light, who talks about be grateful for the darkness, but thrive in the light. Like, make your own powerful life of movement and be able to produce your own individuality, your own authenticity, your realness. Like being able to accept your truth, to be able to love yourself, and then go out and connect and lead others, and doing the daily tasks to be able to finish what you need to do. Like, how the heck did I do that? Well, kind of two different things happened. One was I read a quote, and it wasn't like a super inspirational quote. Like most people are like, I saw this quote, absolutely amazing, changed my life. It did for me, but here was a quote. CEOs read 50 books a year. Like, that was it. And I'm like, well, I want to go into business. I want to be a CEO. And because I have dyslexia, I'm not that good at reading. I read maybe an average of 1 book a year before that. So I said, okay, I'm just going to read 12 books this year. 1 book a month shouldn't be that hard. It's like maybe 10 pages a day. I can finish it, and it would just be a nice goal. So that was February 2018. And I kept reading and reading and reading until that June, I reached the goal of 12. And I felt super pumped. I'm like, holy cow, I feel this momentum. I feel me being able to actually go out and do something. Like, I took something that people consider a mental disorder and overcame that, and actually read more books than the average American. Like, I was in that 1%. I felt super excited. And so I'm like, well, Grant Cardone, he talks about the 10X rule. And the 10X rule is 10X your action and 10X your goals. Now, there is no way I was going to read 120 books by the end of that year. That would have been absolutely crazy. So I decided to read 40 books. And so I read and read and read. And after 5 months, ending at the end of November, I read 40 books. Now, again, that's small, like just small little things. I felt this energy and this just real raw spirit, soul, connection, mind, like all this stuff going on. I don't know how to describe it. Energy, I guess. This aura of just momentum that I could do anything. Like, my mindset changed to this positive and progressive one where I said, I can do it. And I'm like, should I do it? Should I read 10 more books so that by the end of 2018, I can actually say I read 50 books? And I'm like, I'm just going to try it. Let me go out and try it. And by the end of 2018, I read 50 books. 2019, 75. This year, I'm on track to over 50 books. I think I'm on book 30 right now. But the thing is, like, it was just those little steps at a time that helped me overcome it. And that's really a big portion of how I became the person I am today, because I went from someone who was just watching YouTube videos, not dissing on any YouTube videos, and not really focused on my life, to someone who actually can do something, who took one of the biggest challenges that he got in first grade, dyslexia. For those who don't know what dyslexia is, it basically hits 4 areas: spelling, reading, speaking, and writing. For me, it was speaking and it was reading. Those are my biggest areas. And so I overcame that reading challenge. The second thing, to wrap it up quick, that helped me was I saw a video by Grant Cardone, super sales extraordinaire, that just said 5 ways to make $1 million. And I'm like, cool, 30-minute video. I watched it. I'm like, wow, this is absolutely amazing. So I watched another one and another one and another one. And then I started watching stuff from Jay Shetty and started watching stuff from Ed Milet. I believe that's it. And then I saw stuff by Evan Carmichael. And you mentioned Evan Carmichael at the beginning. He's this huge YouTuber, has over 1 million subscribers. He's famous for his top 10 series. And I'm like, I dove into his videos and I was just surrounding myself by all these positive people. We talk about our inner circle, our 5 most people being the ones that influence our life and that we're the sum of. And so I was surrounding myself with all these millionaire and billionaires who have actually done things and failed so many times, but came out with a success that I was starting to become that individual. And that was one of the coolest things in the world. And then I was able to meet Evan Carmichael when he did his world tour. He came to Salt Lake. So me and my wife, we went to visit him, got a picture with him, got to talk one-on-one because I showed up 30 minutes early. And that's a lesson in itself. Early.
There so you go.
I had that one-on-one talk with him. And the coolest thing, that was cool. But afterwards, he was giving 3 prizes. 2 of those all 3 of those prizes were for a one-on-one interview. 2 of them were going to the person who traveled the furthest to get to Salt Lake. And then the other one was going to be random. And so one was from like Spanish Fork. That was the furthest from Salt Lake for those people who aren't in Utah. And the next was Provo, which is like right above it. It was me and another guy in Provo. And so I'm sitting there. I'm like, I have school the next day. I'm a nice guy. I'll just give the opportunity to him. Now, I believe this is God's grace for what happened, 100%. But for anyone I learned a lesson with that also, which is like take the opportunity when it comes to you, especially if it's that big. A one-on-one 30-minute interview with someone who actually has it, that's phenomenal. And so I gave it to the other guy. And when it came to the random person, his wife, Nina, looked over and said, okay, you're the random person. And she was pointing at me. And I'm like, and so Evan looks at me, he's like, can you make 1 o'clock tomorrow? I stared at him and my mind was like absolutely going crazy. I'm like, oh my goodness. I just said no to it, but then I got a second chance, which is very rare.
Yeah.
Very rare to get a second chance opportunity. So I committed. That's another lesson. Commit to something. And I followed through and I had a one-on-one with Evan. It was absolutely amazing. Grew a lot from it. Got to have a personal conversation and build a relationship with someone who I can use as a connection for the future. And so just there's like little small things. When opportunities came, I took them. I said yes to them. And after I said yes to them, I didn't text them that night or the next morning saying, hey, I can't do it. I have school. Like I kept it. And just like my reading books, I didn't say, oh, 12 books would be awesome. Oh, 40 books would be cool. Oh, 10 books in a month. Like that's unheard of. Who would want to do that? But I committed and I actually did it. And so God's everything to me 100%. Like he made me into the person I am. And I'm so grateful that he helped me get the self-discipline to keep my commitments. Because that honestly is how it led me to the path of where I'm at today. Did that kind of answer your question? I know that was a little long-winded.
No, you did a really good job of answering it, and you kind of went all over the place. So that was pretty solid. I just wanted to talk really fast about that commitment because that is something that will always be challenged when you want to dream big or you want to do something like that. There's always like the little man. I remember watching a video from Evan Carmichael. He did the voice called Believe in Yourself for Motivational Grid. And usually those motivation videos are a bit too much for me. It's like, get off the couch right now.
Right.
Whatever. But that's just me being silly. But this one about that Evan Carmichael did, he's like, surround yourself with greatness. The people that you surround yourself in your life are important. If you surround yourself who constantly build you up and yada, 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 you're going to become great. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with those who, tell you you're not good enough, you're not going to make it, I call that the little man. Once you surround yourself with the little man, soon you become the little man. And that just kind of stood out to me. And so I really like how you shared that. And, what you did was, it took some guts, to miss that class, but I'm sure you don't regret missing that class.
No, not at all. And that's the funny thing. Like, in the moment, you will always question a commitment. Hopefully you don't, but I'm going to tell you, you always will, because the way you grew up is going to get in the way of the decision that should be right. So an example with Evan Carmichael, I grew up that you show up to school every single day, unless you're like sick, obviously. But show up every single day, don't miss a class, you write notes down, you study, you get an A. Like, that's how I grew up. That's how most people grow up, is in that environment. And so when I'm sitting in that chair and my mind's going 100,000 billion miles an hour and saying, like, do I go against what I've been taught my whole life? Do I go against my old self? Or do I actually do something that takes, basically, here, this is how I'd put it. I had to divorce my old self in order to become the person who I wanted to become. And divorce is a strong word. But the thing is, like Dallin, you and me aren't here to give people cupcakes. We're going to give them the brand muffins. We're going to give them the hard stuff that's not going to be sugar-coated, that's not going to be beat around the bush. In order for anyone to actually become who you want to become and be relentlessly committed to it, you got to divorce your old self. And that's going to be the hardest thing, because you've been with yourself the whole entire time you've been alive. I've been with myself for 23 years. At the moment that I made that decision to say yes to Evan Carmichael, I was 21 years old.
Wow.
And I told myself that I, again, needed to be a new person or shrink back to the one who I was comfortable with. And I'm so happy, and I have no regrets of ditching that day of school and actually going out and talking with Evan. Like, I don't regret it now. Looking back, I'm like, that's one of the best decisions I've ever made. A lot of people, it might not be the best decision you ever made. But the thing is, you're never going to know the other side of a decision. Mm-hmm. Like, I would never have known what would have happened to me if I didn't take the one-on-one with Evan and actually went to school. I don't know what would have happened. I never will. And I have never thought about what would have happened, ever. I have not put any energy into thinking what could have happened. I'm thinking now of what I want in the future. And so in that moment when you feel that, those butterflies, feel your adrenaline pumping, feel the need to not break your values and principles that you've grown up with, but you feel in your gut are wrong, that's the moment that defines who you actually are going to become. And especially when it's a second chance and an opportunity, I'm like, I better take it. So I made the decision, never looked back on it. And like you said, I don't regret it one bit.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. There's so much power in everything that you just said. Like how, and that's something I think about all the time personally. It's like there's different people I met that gave me jobs later, or gave me opportunities, or I got to be on their podcast or whatever. And it's because, you know, you chose to treat them kindly, treat the opportunity nicely, and, you know, give it its full attention that it deserved. And, you know, but the whole thing is like, you only get that. Some opportunities, they do come and go. So you need to like own it. It's like the ice cream man. I mean, sure, like when the ice cream man comes by, he'll probably come by tomorrow, but you don't know, maybe he'll go to a different neighborhood and he won't come back. So it's like, you got to decide, is this something you really want? And I'm sorry if I'm talking really loudly for everybody listening, but
Dude, that's your passion.
You do have to decide, you know, and I'm so on board with you when it comes to the divorcing thing, because that's something I've recently needed to do, is like letting go some other habits. Like the biggest one is my gaming. Like I've always been a pretty decent, you know, gamer, and I've done a lot of YouTube videos and stuff with it. But this semester I said, you know what? I'm going to try playing no video games except on Friday and Saturday and super special days like Memorial Day and my birthday. So that's what I've done. Friday, Saturday, Memorial Day, my birthday, that's it. Whereas, and now I don't have to ever think, I wonder what it would have been like if I actually had stuck with that the whole time, because I have. And I can look at this semester compared to like another semester where I played video games kind of whenever, because I'd walk in my room and, you know, people are playing. It's like, I'll just play a couple games. Usually it's never a couple games. And yeah, so I just love what you said. So like, how have you used that experience to fuel your passion, your posts, all those other endeavors that you're doing that you're trying to get kickstarted? And also you do your Light It Up meetings, you know, so like how has your experiences helped fuel those things?
Yeah, it's the entirety of it. Like there's, like you said, my Light It Up meetings. My Light It Up meetings are meetings where, before all this started happening, where college students in the Provo and Orem area, just because that's where I was at the time, they come together and we talk and get connected. We get motivated, and we just build the relationships and talk about truth. That's simply what it's for. And then when things started happening, I jumped onto doing Instagram. And then I realized that my audience wasn't really on Instagram. They were on Facebook. And so I haven't done it yet, just because I've been doing a lot of other things. But sometime shortly, just like us talking about it right now, I'll commit right now. I'll commit to sometime within the next couple of weeks before the end of the month, I'll do a Light It Up meeting where I'll speak about a certain topic, and then whoever's watching will invite them on and just have a good old time with connecting, building relationships, and sharing stories with each other.
This sounds fantastic.
Yeah, the thing is, like, all the experiences that I've gone through, I don't think I've ever looked back, except the two that I shared, because they were just so big.
Sorry, I'm gonna try to get this out of my eye. What the heck? Silly glare. Just a sec.
You're good, bro.
Oh my. There we go.
Do.
Well, that's some good stuff. Isn't it super powerful when you could commit to something like that in the future? It's like, all right, brain, we're going to get this to happen. I actually just recently committed myself to have my book, my website, and my blog done by September on another podcast, The Happiness Question. I was like, if I don't do it, then you can forever just be like, that guy, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, he doesn't keep his word. And yeah, so like, Willie, how has staying true to your one word why of light kind of helped you to keep, continuing to grow and add on to all these things that you're doing?
Yeah, good question, man. Good question. For those who don't know what I like talking about the one word why. It's derived off of, again, Evan Carmichael's book, Your One Word. I've just taken it to a different level and applied it so much to my life that I can't not share it with people. And my one word is light. One word being you're taking your why and literally bringing it down to one word. That's it. And how cool is that? Like, you can go out and they're just like, so what's your why? And you're just like, light, or love, or freedom, or value. Like, you just share your one word. And the best thing about it is that you define what it is. No one else gets to define what it is. Like value. It's such a generic term, but you can say to yourself, my one word why is value. I give more than I receive. Or for me, my one word is light. I want to be the person to actually help bring the light to other people, not be the source, but be the deliverer. And so I see people who are in their darkness, right? Darkness being fear, regret, obstacles, challenges, all those different things that we go through in life. Like, they're in their own little corner. They're all shriveled up, not knowing where to go. And I'm the friend, the brother who opens the door, and they look up and I say, yo, it's this way. And I go pick them up and we start walking.
You got your flashlight like this, like, hey, look, what's up? But you're hopefully not spraying their face, like, ooh.
Right.
It's kind of like, yeah, that's good.
So my one word why is light, and how that's helped me in my life. I wouldn't have the connections and the ability and skills and experiences I have right now without that. Because when I was working at Walmart, goodness, was that 2 years ago? 2 years ago, I was working at Walmart. And one of my friends that I met at school, his name is Devin, absolutely love the guy. He said, hey, Willie, I have a friend named John. And you guys just have the same vibe, the same energy. I want you two to meet each other and talk. I'm like, sweet. So went to Starbucks. Me and Devin talked for a little bit. John came in. Devin had to leave early. So John and I talked for an hour and a half. Wow. After the hour and a half, he's just like, hey, Willie, I love what you stand for. I told him my one word why. I told him what I've been learning. I was super energetic and pumped up. And he says, hey, Willie, do you want a job? And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. And because of that, I stopped working at Walmart and I started working for him as a representative of the company. And then with that, like, he was the CEO, and the company Amplified Minds dealt with doing a lot of events, networking. And so I was at a lot of networking events and a lot of masterminding events, which are events where you get a group of people together who are like-minded and desire the same outcome. So one person would stand up or speak up and say, this is the one need or challenge that I have. And they would be 100% selfish. They would say, this is the absolute need or challenge I have right now, the number one. And then everyone else in the circle is 100% selfless. They would give all their resources, all their connections that they have to be able to help this individual. And then next person goes, and it just go around the table. And the cool thing is, like, that's how relationships should be. You shouldn't go into a relationship and say, hey, I can do this for you, but I want something really big in return. No, what you should do is say, yo, I got this super awesome deal for you that I'm going to give you it free. This is the value. I expect nothing in return. Here, have it. Hopefully your dreams, visions, and goals are absolutely just met, and that you can go towards it and actually get things done better, take more action on it. Like, we call it the perpetual relationship, which that just means, like, that's the relationship where people call you at 3 a.m. and say, hey, my car broke down, and you're the one who jumps out of bed, puts on their shoes, and drives to help get them. Like, that's the relationships that we built in that company. And because of that, I got really cool connections. And I'm not like boasting or bragging, but with those connections, I felt like the underdog. I felt I had nothing of value to give to them. As I started talking with them, I was able to be a friend to them. I was able to listen. I was able to see what they actually needed. And when I actually had something that could help them out, their challenge or need, I'd help them out with it. Didn't expect anything in return, just simply serving them. Between you and me, like, I didn't make a friendship with you just so I could be on your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we were friends way before that. We were friends years before this is happening right now. Dude, I didn't become your friend just so that you can give value to me. I became your friend because I cared. I cared about your dream. I cared about your vision. And so people who are listening, if you're going out and building relationships to be able to receive something in return, you better think again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the wrong way to build relationships. The right way is to go out and give more than you receive. And when you give more than you receive, then you start receiving more. And that's just the universal truth.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's all about, continuing to improve your delivery methods and like all the different ways that you give so that you're able to give in a way that really benefits and helps people. Like for some people, what helps them the most, people that I know, is like giving them a phone call and talking with them. For some people, what would help the most is getting them on the podcast or something. But yeah, I really like what you shared, and just keeping in mind the long-term perspective is so powerful with everything that you do, because everybody that we come in contact with, we're meeting them kind of like what you said, like you're at 23, I'm at 24, we're meeting them at that mark, and we can help them, we can hurt them, and we have power to do something, to make a difference for them. And another quick thing that came to mind with you said about giving so much and expecting so little in return, I thought of God. I thought of his plan. I thought of, keeping the commandments, and how he'll say like, hey, I'll keep you safe from, all these addictions. You'll have the best health of your life, all these different things from keeping the commandments. You'll, all these different blessings. And yet so many people just avoid it, and they don't step into the light. They don't trust in that truth. And so I read this actually in the Book of Mormon recently. I said a prayer, and 2 Nephi 32, 4 and 5 came to mind about like how it's like after you've received these things, if you don't understand them, it's because you don't ask, and it's because you're sitting in the dark. So that's how it is you're just right on the money. Just like with relationships and different things, it is so much about how you can give value and how you can help, because you never know how like a small little thing, I'll say it over and over again on my podcast for the rest of my life, is from a hymn, Scatter Sunshine, that slightest actions often meet the source needs, because you don't know what somebody is going through. And something that you say could change their directory forever. Like you watching those videos really inspired you and helped you keep going. And so I just echo it back. My first memory of you just got put into the area, and we were all playing basketball, and we were playing like knockout, and you were there, and we just talked a little bit, and that was it. But that's the beginning, and you keep in touch. You help each other, and you're there through the thick and thin. I feel like we've both done that for each other. Like as we've both had our rougher times or our other struggles or our great times, we try to support one another all the same. So yeah, you shared some really good stuff there.
Yeah, man. I got a question for you. How has the long-term perspective helped you in staying positive and staying in the progressive mindset?
Well, it's kind of cool when I'm interviewing somebody and I get asked a question. It's usually doesn't happen usually. But for me, like the YIELD acronym, yes, I envision love demonstrated today. It is a long game thing. You know, it's helped me stay so much more positive knowing that, you know, God sees the things I cannot see. He sees the people that I can help. He knows every single person that I've ever helped ever. So like all those people that I met at a grocery store and said hello, or told them their hair looked nice and really meant it, or I said hi to their kids or whatever. He knows all of those different things. And that is just such a comfort to me that all of those little victories are leading me to other ones. And I love the thought that private victories precede public victories. And knowing that, I just believe really strongly too that God's preparing us now, right now, for what is going to happen later. I've been pretty well prepared for everything that I'm going through right now years before. And I can say that with like for surety, you know, and it's really made all the difference is knowing that he's going to help me out, even though I'm having a rough time sometimes. Just knowing that there's this long-term perspective that I often forget about that he completely sees. And so just because my first interaction with somebody wasn't that great, it doesn't mean that like in a year they really need help, or they're starting a podcast, or they're starting a YouTube channel, and all of a sudden this connection makes sense. Whereas before it was like, I'll say hello, I'll reach out, and it incubates. You know, there's that time. And I feel like we're so impatient sometimes, but just a very fast thought, it's helped me be more patient. Is just knowing that if I trust God's timing, it's going to be the best that it could possibly be. You know, when an egg or a chicken comes out of its egg, if you let it out too early, it will die. It needs to break out on its own. That's when it will be the best, the healthiest, is when it's able to get out on its own. But if you crack it and get it out too early, then that's no bueno. So I don't know, if you want to dig deeper into that, you can, but that's just a quick thought, is just, he just sees things in a such better perspective than I ever could. And that's just so humbling and powerful to me, because there's some episodes of this podcast that have really really gelled with people and helped them. And I'm not really aware of a lot of that. And so it's super humbling just to think in the long-term perspective, because God always sees, you know, the whole picture. Whereas we see little blips, tiny little minuscule specks sometimes. It's like, dude, this is super cool. It's like, oh yeah, there's a lot more there. There's a lot more of that. So yeah.
You'll nail it on the head, man. We just don't know. And so why not just do it? Even if it's like you're walking down the street and you see a homeless person, and like, you don't know if they're going to be like the rich and famous in 5 years and be like your next boss. You don't know. And I could take that to the extreme, right?
But seriously, you don't know.
Yeah, you seriously don't know. There's absolutely no way for you to know. And so you just figure out who you are. You be nice to everyone. You treat everyone like a CEO. You go out and like you live with passion and energy. Don't go into a family gathering and not have a smile on your face, not being able to actually give 100% of yourself and your energy to your family or to your friends. Like, don't go into any conversation with someone else without 100% of your best, because without the 100%, you're undermining the value that you can get out of that conversation. That connection and relationship could have been absolutely amazing, but just because you felt tired that day and you felt to have that donut instead of the smoothie drink in the morning, you're not 100% that day. And that relationship just got shot because you didn't show up. And that's the thing. We just don't know what's going to happen. So we just do the best that we can do with what we got. And I love your analogy with the chicken and the egg, 100%. If you break that thing open before it's ready, they're dead. Literally, they're dead. And they're weak, too. Like they're weak and then they die. And it's not like they're weak and then get stronger. Like, you hope for that. But the strength comes from them being inside the shell.
It's the struggle, man.
Dude, it's a struggle. Like, it's going against the grain. It's like pecking at it for hours and hours. And for humans, that's like pecking at it for years and years until you get the strength, until you get the experience, until you actually get the reality for you to catch up with. And then once you get there, then you start breaking the shell. And it's not just like a piece of dynamite goes off in the eggshell and it's like boom, and you show up like this muscular person. Like, you chip away one part of the shell, and then you chip away another, and then finally, after you get the shell, you can lift it off, and then you're ready to go out into the world. It's patience.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's patience. We got to be patient. We live in such a world that we hate patience. We avoid it. We are so caught up in everyday life. What happens when we figure out that we have extra time on our plate? We fill it with something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why do we have such an inclination to say, I have all these things going, and then finally you have this gap of time and say, oh, I need to fill that gap of time with something, or I'm unproductive? Like, why do we have such an intention to do that? What we should be doing is figure out what's our intention for it. Like, is it intentional, every single thing we're doing? Not if it's like productive and unproductive. We talked about it yesterday on the Instagram Live. Like, the opposite of unproductive isn't productive, it's intentional. Like, are you intentional in the things that you do? When you actually go out and you're like speeding through life and you're like, I gotta make $1 million by the time I'm 30. I gotta own 20 pieces of real estate. I have to be the #1 in my company. I have to be the CEO of my business. I have to have my entrepreneurial business be the Fortune 500 in 5 years. Can it happen? For sure. Loads of stories on that. But that's the exception, not the reality. The reality is, be patient. Like, we're young. We can literally do nothing for 6 or 7 years and still be young and still have a whole nother life. Like, I'm 23. I can live 3 more lives than what I've lived right now, and I'd be 92.
That's crazy.
Like, it's crazy to think about, but we don't think about it because we're just such in a hurry. And we're in such in a hurry that we subconsciously realize that we're scared. We're scared to slow down, because if we slow down, we might actually find something about ourselves. We might actually realize that something's wrong, that we've been doing this whole thing in a different way than needs to be. There's a thing, work hard and work smart. Like, we say, work smart, work smart, work smart, and we're afraid to slow down and be like, oh crap, I've been thinking dumb and doing dumb. I can't emphasize patience. And of course, I'm impatient a lot of the time, but I remind myself that it's about macro patience and micro speed. So the small things I do today, I need to do them quick. Like, with you on this podcast, I'm not going to speed up the podcast and be like, yo, Dallin, we're wrapping up. I'm going to be intentional and be 100%. After I get done with this podcast, I'm going to go have dinner with my wife. Then I got another Zoom call to jump on.
Nice.
Like, there are just different things going on in my life that are each going towards what and who I want to become. And that's the key point. It's who do you want to become, and then do those little micro things to get there. First you got to realize who you actually are. A lot of people don't do that. They're just like, oh, what do I want to become? Why do I want to become it? And how do I become it? and they don't take the time to actually figure out who they are right now to be able to get to where they need to be. And that's a sad thing. And so it's patience, it's self-awareness, it's humility, it's going out and living in kindness and talking with every single person and asking them, what's your story, instead of telling them yours. It's being able to go out and seek and understanding them before you need to feel understood.
Mm-hmm. I was just going to say that. So I'm glad you did.
Yeah, Stephen Covey. Love the guy. Seek to understand before being understood.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's what it's about. And that's the truth of it. We get caught up in the speed of things, but slow down. When an airplane's in turbulence, a lot of people say, oh, speeding up would be the best thing. But you can talk to any good pilot, and they would say that, no, it's the opposite. You need to slow down. Yeah.
Some powerful stuff. Well, I want to share a quick scripture from the Book of Mormon because it just keeps coming to mind, and I feel like it says it way better than we can, although we've hit the nail on the head pretty good. It's Alma chapter 32, verse 40. So Alma's talking with these humble people that have tried to, worship God and stuff, and they got cast out of their churches and stuff. And this is definitely can be applied to today. But it just says, and thus, if you will not nourish the word, looking forward with an eye of faith to the fruit thereof, you can never pluck the fruit of the tree of life. And I'll also read verse 38. But if you neglect the tree and take no thought for its nourishment, behold, it will not get any root. When the heat of the sun cometh and scorcheth it, because it hath no root, it withers away, and you pluck it up and cast it out. So I would say there are times when both of us in our dream chasing and stuff, there's been times when it would have been easy to quit. And sure, there's times you have to go back to who you really are. But you keep going, you keep learning, and you just try to keep the bigger picture in mind, like what did you really want, and why did you sacrifice so much to get to where you're at? I just love the quote so much that when I started, I would have given anything to be where I'm at right now. And that's the truth. If you could show this happening right now, back in August of 2019 when I started, it's like, oh, wow. Dallin's done like 6 interviews on Zoom in the last month. That's kind of crazy. I should start with where I'm starting right now and keep going. But we don't see the long-term perspective. And that's something that patience just shows us later on. So I really love everything you shared, Willie.
Yeah. Loved everything you shared, man. You're sharing gold too. Yeah. We all share gold.
We all share gold here in the old treasure map or something.
Old treasure trove.
Treasure trove cove.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if we're going to start wrapping up soon, but I wanted to drop this quick. In relation to anything anyone says, go out and figure out if it's truth. Like, we could just be BSing this whole time, and you wouldn't even know about it. You'd just be like, oh, yeah, that sounds so good, I'm going to do it. Or you're like, oh, no, that sounds like absolute crap. The thing is, like, actually go out and try it. Mm-hmm. Go out and find experts who have done it. And we've done a great job of showing, like, our experience and talking about it and giving credibility to ourselves to be able to say, yeah, we actually know what we're talking about and the things that we discussed. But whenever it comes to information, like, solve it for yourself.
Got a brain for a reason.
Right, you got a brain for a reason. You got 2 eyes, but your brain's bigger than your eyes. Hopefully, be a student. Be a student, constantly learn, and whatever people say, like, actually take action on it. You can listen to the hour thing that we've done, but the thing is, you're not going to get anything out of it. Knowledge is good, but it's crap until you actually do something with it. So take action. Light up your life.
How can people find you, Willie?
People can find me. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Just type those social medias with Willie Blake _light. and you'll find me. Willie with an IE. So on all those different platforms, type that. I have a page on Facebook, Instagram profile. Connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a TikTok. Don't post that much on it. I'm probably going to start doing that more often because I love videos. But that's how you can reach me.
Sounds good. Yeah, I really appreciate you hopping on the show. I had a really good time with you as always. I just think back really quickly to like those phone calls we've had, those other Zoom things, or those other things we've done together. We've done other Instagram lives together. All of those have prepared us for this specific interview. If we had not done all those prep work, this wouldn't go as smoothly as it has. This has gone extremely smoothly. I feel like anybody who listens to this there's some pretty good value here. It's because a lot of the stuff we've talked about, we know each other well and different things. So respect the long game. And I just love the thought as well that like a lot of overnight successes are like 10 plus years in the making too. Like there's some truth to that too. And yeah, hit up Willie. He just is great for dissecting your one word why and just getting a better idea of what you want to do in life. I've talked with him before. I've used his services. I can put my thumbs up to Willie's things. He's just got some great little free consulting thing going on and some value, lots of value. So thank you, Willie, for being on the show. And don't forget, everybody, to yield today will be a better tomorrow.
Peace.
See ya.